I must warn you, I will not lead a second in command. I will win by fire. I am destined for greatness. I found the crown of France in the gutter and placed it atop my own head.
So, 1977.
Yeah.
You made The Duelists.
Yes.
If somebody had sort of sent back a little time capsule with Austerlitz or Waterloo or a scene from this film, would you have believed it?
Yes.
Really?
Yeah.
How so?
I mean, well, you know, Duelists explored with Joseph Conrad.
Yeah.
He was doing it was a 100-page book, novella. It was going to be his big sketch for War and Peace. But what I loved was the obsession of the class obsession. There's upper class and there was the lower class. Two officers, they would duel, and at the end of it, one of them would forget the original reason for the duel, which is, to me, a great metaphor for the craziness of violence and war. But the film ends on the character who's obsessed by Napoleon, everything he stands for, is Harvey Keitel's character, Ferrot. He stands on a cliff and fundamentally has to settle for his lot at this point in the story. And I always thought that's the image of Napoleon Bonaparte. I revisited the film about 3 years ago and watched it and thought, damn, it's a good movie.
It is a really good movie, and it won an award, so congratulations.
Yeah.
All these years later,
And then
4
there
years
it is,
later.
and I started, it resurrected the idea, what I'll do Napoleon, have a go.
Oh, okay. Well, I read that you actually studied a lot of paintings to sort of inform yourself who he was, what the time was like. And when I watched this film, I wrote down, this movie is amazing. It looks incredible. It feels like a painting from that time. It almost feels like it's lit like paintings from that time. So if you can talk about how those paintings informed who Napoleon was and the time for you that we see in this film.
Well, you know, the paintings of the period were very literal. So they're almost like plate camera photographs. So when you're looking at the painting, you're looking at a time warp. Those paintings are time warps. So you look in the corner of the painting, see the furniture, the people, street scenes, you can look at the street scene. So it's I don't know who said, somebody said there's a picture's worth 1,000 words. And I used to think it was a Hollywood director. It wasn't. It was Ibsen. Can you believe that? Ibsen said that in so many words. So, but a picture is worth. We deal with cinema, so I look at images as my research. I don't read that much.
I'm very visual too.
Yes.
I love a good visual, Ridley. Let's talk about your two powerhouse leads. It's my understanding that you watched some improv between the two of them and you were blown away.
Yes.
So I'm wondering, either if you can recall a specific moment, because I feel like they were hilarious, and I know you always look to humor in films. I didn't think this was going to be...
Thank God, it's meant to be funny.
Yeah, but I didn't think Napoleon was going to be funny.
Some jerk was in a letter said, does it mean that Napoleon is actually a bad lover? I said, missed the point, dude. So no, thank God, yes, it's meant to be funny.
Exactly.
Because isn't the bedroom frequently funny? It can be.
Well, it's also when you meet somebody, there's a flirty nature to it, where you're playing with each other.
More than that, I think she was less impressed by him than he was by her. So if you like, she tolerated his attention.
Yeah.
Initially.
Yeah.
Then I think it changed to affection, respect. Did she love him? Don't think so.
But great friendship.
Yes.
That's tantamount to a relationship.
Sometimes
I'm wondering,
better.
I know you've often shot with 6 to 8 cameras. You're very efficient. You're a great strategist, and you love France. This sounds like Napoleon.
You couldn't even compare. You know, people aren't aware of this, but there's 2,500 books written on Napoleon Bonaparte. I can't think of any leader, politician, king, you name it, has been so covered. What is it about him that people are so fascinated by?
But he's still enigmatic.
Exactly. There's no real answer. Yeah.
Do you feel like you have the answer now?
No, I think the story, the way I've done it, is multifaceted, multicolors. But I think they said, did she influence him in his strategy? I don't think so at all. I think there was his world and career and armies and victories and disasters, and then it was private life, which is her. So when he was in Egypt, He left Egypt and left his army there because he thinks she was playing around in Paris. Unbelievable.
Sounds like 2023, sir.
Yes.
You often shoot with, like I said, multiple cameras, up to 11
Yeah.
in some of these battle scenes.
Yeah, you got to know where to put them, though.
And the attention to detail, if you could maybe just break down a little bit of Austerlitz, because some of the underwater stuff, I know mechanical horse, maybe you created that water, like,
Tank.
yeah.
Tank.
Were you absolutely itching to get those things on film? And what kind of joy did that bring you to see it come together?
Well, you know, it's like a child. Great quote by Orson Welles said, filmmaking is the best toy train set a boy could ever have. And that's fun. Making films is huge pressure. You got to embrace stress, but with whatever you think, you feel you're really living. You're constantly under pressure.
What kind of conversations? Because I know Joaquin is, you've sang his praises, the attention to detail, and the conversations that you had prior to filming, where he felt like he didn't know if he had it. What were some of those conversations like?
I want to leave. I don't want to do it.
Really?
I went, what? We're 3 weeks out. Really? I'm going, no. But I went through that on Gladiator. So I'd been there before. I think it's his way. I think he is so insecure, which actually is his fuel. Joaquin's insecure is his fuel.
Yeah. Some people work better that way under pressure.
Yeah, but it's real. I don't think
Yeah.
it's not something he just adapts
Yeah.
or adopts. It is really insecure.
Speaking of Gladiator, you're knee deep back in it.
Yeah.
What kind of, Russell was obviously so iconic, so iconic. What kind of energy does Paul bring in this modern telling, and what sort of tone will the film have? Will it be reminiscent, and has it been nostalgic for you?
No, I don't get nostalgic.
Yes, I bet you do.
I think Russell was quite different kind of character. And of course, everyone knows now, it's not a secret what the story is. The character that, now I'm not going to tell you the story, I'll answer it in abstract. Paul is playing a character, it's very difficult, it's out there. He's playing Lucius.
Tell me something that's not out there.
He's not out there. Well, he's playing Lucius.
Yeah.
They came out early on and said, what? And therefore, he's been in the wilderness for, let's see, last time when he was 12. We're now, say, I don't know, it's about 12, 15 years later, he's been out in the wilderness, having lost touch with his mother. Mother lost touch with him. She doesn't know where he is. She thinks he might be dead. That's the story.
Real quick, Joaquin, as much as you do these epic scale films, what I love is your attention to detail. The fact that he cuts himself shaving, and I didn't know if that was real, but...
Oh, and he had to cut, we have to get the cut, yeah.
Yeah, but
He
I didn't
liked
know
to
if that
shave
actually happened, if he
Oh,
actually,
yeah.
maybe it actually
No,
cut himself.
We put blood in.
But the attention to detail, can you talk about as a director, when you see Joaquin in a close-up, because when I was watching it, his close-ups, I don't know if there's anybody better. As a director, and when you're sitting behind the lens, what do you... You've talked about how he's the most sympathetic character in Gladiator.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was very, to me, in Gladiator, he was very, he was the product of a delinquent father. Father didn't see him for 17 years. Then he comes and said, you're not going to be the Prince of Rome. That's a killer. So, and there's nothing to be said, there's no connection. And therefore he makes a plea that I have good points. So that was tragic to me. And what was your question?
Well, you really wanted to cast him in Napoleon, and apparently he didn't think he was right for the role. So what did you see in him?
Face.
That's what I'm
he
saying.
Looks like
yeah.
He looks like Napoleon.
But his inner stuff, is incredible.
Oh no, there's a. He'll laugh. I said there's a dark side to Joaquin, but there's also a great comical side to him. So you've got a huge choice between those two elements.
I led the French victory at Toulon.
What is your name?
Napoleon.
Has the course of my life just changed? Napoleon.
First of all, I was just chatting with Joaquin, and I'm so curious about this sense of play between the two of you, because the thing that I loved most about this film that I was not expecting was that this felt like a real relationship. This didn't feel like one of those Hollywood scripts where it's like everything's all good or all bad. It was incredibly complex. And I understand that you guys sort of like brought surprises to set, like the crawling under the table and the oinking and all that. So if you can talk a little bit about how you surprised him or how he surprised you.
Yeah, I think that's so true, isn't it? It was, their relationship is so inherently surprising. I mean, we were continually eluded by the nature of what it was and how different it was in different phases of their life. And we always used to say, isn't it interesting? It's not a graph of growing love and growing content and, less drama. It was kind of like this. And that was really challenging to play because when you're playing the arc over many years and you think about what's happening in the external life publicly, it's so dramatic. It's so extreme. When you're trying to think of as ifs, and as if in my life it would be like, it was so hard because the nature of the extremity of the time that they were living and what those two people were living through and doing together and apart and watching him do what he went on to do. It was just, elusive beyond. And so we had to try and make the commitment to going, okay, I found her to be extremely enigmatic and ephemeral. And how can we do something strange and unusual in this rather than a kind of sweeping love story where, as you say, everything's clear.
Yeah.
It's so unclear.
It's so funny that you said that because I was thinking to put yourself, can you imagine the enormity? Like we come to Paris and we visit these gardens and homes and castles. And this was where she lived. Do you feel like she felt like at the time, because right now the world feels smaller, I feel, because we have so much connection. Do you feel like she had a sense of the enormity of it all? Like the fact that hundreds of years later we're visiting these places, but that was her real life.
I don't know. It's interesting, isn't it? Because the vastness of it, even the land and the empire that he was going off to conquer, and she built this house that was her little sanctuary in the end, and where she died and where she lived out the last days of her life without him. And it was incredibly traumatic and painful. But it was her sort of safe, calm place. And I spent a lot of time there, and her tomb is sort of near in a little church nearby, Malmaison, her house. But she imported all these exotic animals from Australia. So I think she had the understanding of the enormity of what they were doing. But personally, the inner struggles that I think she had and the amount she had to repress and contain and the amount of domestic conflict that was happening between them and obsession and infantilizing and acquiescing and need and dependence was just probably the most immediate concern, I would say, from what I read in her life, more than the action of what was happening.
Yeah. Joaquin talked about, because I asked him about the meet cute between the two of them. Mm-hmm. And he said, you guys really worked on getting that right. And you sort of reworked it. He spoke to the writer. But you immediately have that power dynamic. And it shifts throughout the movie. Like in one scene, I'm like, okay, now he has the upper hand because she kind of needs him financially or have that place. But then emotionally, he was almost like a adolescent who has his first girlfriend, according to him. So yeah, talk about sort of that initial scene, getting that, because you're a powerhouse. Like every role you do, you are just incredible. And the amount of power, the second he sort of buckles to her, I'm like, okay, this is incredible.
I think there's something adolescent in both of them, I think, which is why we wanted their meeting to be strange and unconventional and not, we also wanted to answer the question, which I don't think we did, of why it was Josephine to him his whole life, and for him to finish his life, to end his life and to have the last word be Josephine. He was obsessed from the minute he met her. And it's always so kind of unanswered as why her? Why was it her? In the end, it was only because she couldn't have children, which just must have been beyond devastating for her, I think, to feel that pressure of an empire on your body and not perform in the way that it's being expected. I couldn't imagine the pain of that for her. But with the meeting, we wanted there to be this something about her that was it's so unknowable that he spent his whole life trying to grab it and hold on to it. And therefore, the power had to switch when she wasn't fully his, and she was having affairs, and an affair with a 23-year-old, and it was Hippolyte. It was very well documented. A lot of people saw it taking place while he was away. And for him to throw her out and to be begging for her survival, really, to be there, and have to all those parts of you that she was expressing, kind of repress them in order to coexist and maintain it, and then become empress. You know, she was no way wanted to give that up. But in order to make that happen, it wasn't like she could go and get a quiet life and live in the rural lands and have a blissful time. She was in the middle of the heart of this empire and this, you know, brutality. And to me, I thought the only nature of personality that could do that would be someone so resilient, that had so much apparent dignity, but inside be so committed to it, and therefore would sacrifice parts of herself in order to be there. And so there was an enigmatic quality to her that I found really hard to try and get inside, because I don't feel like I'm like that at all. I feel like it's really clear how I feel about things. Probably way too clear. But this was someone that had to, you know, push it all down. And I think, in a way, I felt like that was maybe why he was so obsessed with her, because I couldn't think why, with all their dramas and all the dysfunction, why it would have carried on.
I didn't know why she was so much why he felt the way about her until I watched the film, and I knew it. I could see why.
What do you think it was?
He could never really have her heart fully. I think he loved her more than she loved him. Sometimes for a man that's difficult, especially a man in his position.
Yes.
But I feel like it was your performance. It was sort of her charm and the fact that she always kind of had him. Like, he never fully had her. So maybe she was a better strategist than he was, in a sense. He's always been called a great strategist. Did you read the letters?
Yes. Oh
you
my God.
did.
They're so amazing, aren't they? They're so fascinating. Have you read any?
I've read a few of them, but Ridley said that it's almost embarrassing, some of the things that he wrote.
Oh, it is.
Is
yeah.
it?
Yeah.
How did it inform who she was to
Yeah.
you?
I think because, again, it was this potency that she had inherently, that he must have been, he just wanted it somehow. And it wasn't, again, something, I think there was other people throughout his life, you know, other women who'd been presented very young by different, you know, people in power and their daughters. And it was so much that time for women, which I can't imagine how hard that would be to be presented like that. And there were so many, and because they all wanted it and needed it, he wasn't, I didn't feel like he was that attracted to her. But as you said, because she had a withholding from him all the way through, even in the second half when she becomes quite young and quite so vulnerable. It's almost like it was so strange playing it, because it was the frightened little girl inside came out. So she became, it was funny in moments to feel that very vulnerable young part of her be out in the second half, much more than the first half when she didn't, you know, she wasn't needing anyone. But I think it was probably his. So to answer your question, the letters seem like this mad expression of, you know, crazy infatuation, of wildness for somebody who he couldn't contain or own. And then it gets very dysfunctional when he tries to, because she becomes a prisoner, I think, in his mania.